How does everybody feel? That wasn't convincing. This is a pro-life event. Let's try it again. How does everybody feel? Much better. Awesome. It's great to be here. Thank you. I love the logo as a designer. I love the logo. I love the new branding. It's awesome. May God just continue to bless Care Pregnancy Center and Care Parenting Center. It's amazing what happens when you say, God, use me. I love when I heard that in the volunteer video. And that's what my wife and I decided to do years ago when we wanted to do more than what we were doing. My wife was a teacher by profession. She taught public, private. She taught for about 12 years. Her last 3 years were in inner city Philly. And I worked as a creative director in ad agencies for about the same amount of time. We wanted to tackle these tough social issues. So we launched the Radiance Foundation so that we could illuminate, educate, and motivate. We want to illuminate the simple truth that every human life has irreplaceable intrinsic value. We want to educate people about a myriad of social issues, all in the context of God-given purpose. And then that last part, motivate. Because we all know it's easy to motivate people, right? How many of you are great self-motivators, just by show of hands? Wow. Got to work on that one. But see, what good is knowledge, what good is information if you don't act on it? And so we want to motivate people to not only make changes in their own lives, but also to change those around them. And I'm officially the Chief Creative Officer, but I like to consider myself the Chief Creative Agitator. Are there any agitators in this room? Come on. Yes, don't raise your spouse's hand to say, I love agitating for a purpose. Now this is little old me at the age of 2. I know what happened. I guess I was cute back then, I don't know. But this was a strong-willed child right here. Any of you have a strong-willed child? Hopefully that child is not here, so don't, okay. And sometimes you don't know what to do with that stuff. You're trying to figure out, how do I handle this? What do I do with this? I was definitely a strong-willed child. I think my initial purpose on earth was to challenge my parents to be better parents. To give them strength and endurance, something like that. But I just want to just encourage any of you parents who have strong-willed children that hold on for about 15, 20, 25 years, and that strong-willed stuff will become something good. I'm actually still apologizing to my parents. I've got about 5 more years left on my apology tour. And now I have 4 children. By the way, my mom at one point she said, and I know she meant this in love. She said, I hope you have children who are just like you. Thank you, Mom. I have 4 who are just like me. Thankfully, they have the great parts from my amazing wife, Bethany, who's also the co-founder of the Radiance Foundation. These are just some of the topics that we get to present. And it's amazing because when you say, God, I'm willing and able, which we did a few years ago, people thought we were out of our minds. You know, back in 2009 when the economy was booming, everybody remembered that? Neither do we. People thought we were out of our minds to leave full-time jobs and to start a nonprofit. But when God calls you, you probably should answer the call. So that's what we did, and God has opened up so many opportunities from Harvard to Princeton to Capitol Hill briefings to pregnancy centers. Over the years, we've helped raise millions for pregnancy centers. By the way, my wife and I fell in love at a pregnancy center banquet fundraiser meeting. She was on the marketing committee, I was singing in the headline band, whatever, and she walked in, and it was love at first sight. I was going to ask how many people fell in love at first sight, but I don't think I should ask that question. I'll just leave that one alone. But you can see some of the topics here that we are able to present. Men by Design, Design to Create, Superhero Changing the World, one diaper at a time. Can I get an amen? Come on. As a stay-at-home dad and my wife a stay-at-home mom, which we all know are misnomers because you never actually stay at home, ever. You think some of that mundane stuff of life isn't transformational, and it really is. We also do the workshop on character development. It's called self-control versus remote control, because we happen to believe that character still matters. Does anybody in this room, I'm going to ask you a lot of questions tonight, by the way. Anybody in this room think that character still matters? Come on, let me see. Okay, about half of you raised your hand. I don't know what the issue is with the rest of you. But these are some of the topics that we get to present because we have a society that has such an aversion to truth. We have a society today that talks about how many phobias. We have so many phobias in our society that we're facing, right? Now, there is an actual phobia that has infected not just our mainstream media, it's infected our institutes of higher learning, if you want to call them that, public education, and even our churches. I don't know if you're familiar with this particular phobia, but it's called factophobia. And this is why we do what we do. Truth ain't hate. There are a lot of times that people will call you a hater because you speak the truth. Now, of course, we're not just supposed to speak the truth, we're supposed to live it. And we're supposed to speak it in love. In fact, one of the foundational verses for our organization is 1 Corinthians 13:6. It says, love does not delight in evil, but it rejoices in the truth. And this is why we do what we do. And here is our Twitter handle, but it's also our worldview. And somehow it's radical to say and to believe that every human life has purpose. Whether you're planned or unplanned, whether you're red, yellow, black, brown, or white, whether you're able or differently abled, every human life has purpose, which is why I love talking about the beauty of possibility. This is my son. This is the first moment I got to hold his little hand. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many of you guys are willing to admit that you ugly cry. I was ugly crying. That was a moment that for that moment to even happen, for the courage of my birth mom, the love of my parents, the love of my siblings, all that made me who I am, my wife, most amazing person in my life, and to get to this moment, to hold this little guy's hand, I was just a mess. Well, part of the crying was because they didn't prep me for what a C-section looked like. I'm serious. I walked in the room. I just was not prepared. But most of the crying was because of this particular moment, the beauty of possibility. See, my story didn't just start here, didn't start when I got married. It actually started way back. So I have to kind of go back to tell you the Bomberger family story.
Life is never picture perfect. Human beings come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and abilities. No matter how much we plan, no matter how much we think we're prepared, the unplanned happens all the time. It's how we respond to the unexpected that shows our true humanity. But many do not see the value of every human life. Too many are willing to discard those who don't fit the picture of perfection. Abortion destroys the chance to love and to be loved. We never know what will fill the frames of our lives, or how empty those frames can be when we allow exceptions.
Every life is a gift.
See, my family is full of exceptions, but it didn't start off that way. In fact, this is how the Bomberger family kind of started off. They were just a handful. It's my mom, my dad, Henry and Andrea Bomberger, and they had 3 homemade children. And you talk about, I love how Care Pregnancy Center, the theme is consider the possibilities. My mom considered the possibilities, and my dad, long actually before they even got married. In fact, it started with my mom, and I love this because it's a testament to how you don't have to live a life of brokenness. No matter what your background, we have, through Christ, the ability to rise above any circumstance. So my mom was 5 years old when her parents were divorcing. Her father was an alcoholic. She grew up in poverty. And so she was placed in a children's home for 1 year. And it's amazing to me because we often underestimate how much a child receives and how much they perceive. And at the age of 5, she noticed, even though she was visited separately by her parents, there was a little girl who had physical disabilities. No one ever visited her. And it broke my mom's heart. A 5-year-old felt that pain. And all she remembers is one night she got down on her knees and just said, God, help me be a mom to those who don't have one. And so her heart for adoption started then. And so along came this mocha-colored little child. That would be me. And apparently I came with the largest passy ring you've ever seen. I think you slip your arm into the passy ring and just swing the baby. I don't know. But this is the first moment my mom was able to hold me. I was 6 weeks old. That was the day that I was adopted. Amazing. Because adoption unleashes purpose, but also self-sacrifice unleashes purpose. So my mom, all through her life, even though her parents had divorced and her dad was just a broken man, she still tried to get him to understand that there could be freedom for him, that there could be healing. So she tried all her life to still connect with him. And so she thought, well, maybe he would be interested in, we're adopting this child. Maybe that will get him excited. Something. She knew he was a flawed person, but she didn't realize that he was also a racist. So when she said they were adopting this brown child, he said, I'll just keep it G-rated. If you bring that black child into your home, you're going to ruin your family. And I don't want anything to do with you. So, as if he hadn't broken my mom's heart enough, she had to make a decision. Because he had a connection with the family. He was visiting, he visited the 3 original Bombergers. But the moment my parents adopted me, he cut off everything. He basically disowned her. And he never saw us the rest of our lives. He missed out on 13 awesome grandchildren. So she literally had to lose a father in order to gain a son. See, there's self-sacrifice. And it's a beautiful thing sometimes. I'm just glad that she chose well. She chose me, so thank you, Mom. But see, Mom wouldn't be, she's not, yes, you can go ahead and clap because I'm glad that I was chosen. But it takes 2, because you kind of have to be on the same page if you're adopting 10 children. I mean, the husband and wife kind of have to be on the same level. But my dad, the most remarkable man I've ever known, the reason why I am the man that I am today. Man of integrity, faith, humor, always taking pictures all the time, which I am the same kind of guy now. My children are always complaining about all the pictures, but they will appreciate it 15 years from now when we pour through the 2 million digital pictures that are in limbo. Anyway, but my dad really loved us all and showed us Christ. He showed us servant leadership. So he and my mom really poured into all of us. So here's our family when it wasn't so big. And I'm showing you this because this newspaper article was a rare thing for my parents to do. They didn't do many interviews, but I love the title of this. Quote, unwanted children, unquote, find their wanted. See, there's no such thing as an unwanted child. A child may be unwanted by his biological parent or parents, but we're all wanted by someone. And so this was the journey of our lives. I'm the little guy down there in the middle. Trouble. So then the family, every year there was a new flavor added to the family. There was someone new. So this is everybody, every sibling. They're all 13 Bomberger kids, obviously a lot of afros. And you can tell we obviously don't look alike. So we're white, we're black, biracial, Native American, Vietnamese. 2 of my brothers down at the bottom of the screen there, you can see black albino. Some of us were adopted as newborns, some of us were adopted as teens out of foster care. Some of my siblings have physical disabilities, some have learning disabilities. Everyone in this picture has special needs. Everyone in this room actually has special needs. That's to love and to be loved. And we were all loved like crazy. I was the favorite in the family. I was the first one chosen, so there's like a special title or something. My youngest sister says I am. I'll just go with that title. But see, growing up in this kind of diversity, which I loved, obviously you can see that there are all kinds of different hues, and we came from all kinds of different backgrounds, some really, really broken backgrounds. But just a testament to what adoption is. See, adoption happens because the natural order of things is broken. And adoption exists to bring restoration and bring healing. In the spiritual, there's no salvation without adoption. So for Christians, adoption shouldn't be second nature or third nature. It really should be first nature. It's not to say that everyone has to be an adoptive parent. That's not what I mean. But we can all do so much more to encourage and foster an environment that embraces adoption, not as the last resort, but as just a viable option as someone choosing to parent their own biological child. So here you can see diversity, and I love diversity. However, it's those things that we share in common sometimes that are even more powerful, like the special needs that I mentioned, which is why this is foundational for the Radiance Foundation. We are one human race. Can I get an amen? Come on. It's amazing. We talk about human dignity, but then we always have these qualifiers. And we always allow, arbitrary things to separate ourselves. If it weren't pigmentation, it would be because you have an attached or unattached earlobe. We just, as humans, we have this proclivity to constantly separate ourselves. And having grown up in a family with such a mixture, I really appreciate, it's not asking people to be colorblind, by the way, don't misunderstand. I know people don't mean anything negative by it. They say we should be a colorblind society. No, we shouldn't. Look around this room. There are all kinds of different hues. They're beautiful. See them. God created color so we could appreciate it, not so that we could separate ourselves. So I just want to show you a picture when you talk about consider the possibilities. Now, my parents had no idea what they were getting into. Of course, you don't have to adopt 10 children to not know what you're getting into. You can have one child who is biologically related, even though you question whether they're biologically related, and you not know what you're getting into. I want to show you a picture, though, of what unwanted looks like. I want to show you a picture of what considering the possibilities results in. This is the result of love. My parents defied the world's low expectations and just did what God called them to do. I love them like crazy. So this is just my family, just my siblings, their spouses, their children, no aunts, uncles, no grandparents, just the Bombergers. So this is all of us. Not the Duggars, the Bombergers. Just saying, it's amazing what happens when love is in that mix, when care and compassion, and I know that's what Care Pregnancy Center does every day. For anyone who comes through their doors, they change the narrative. My parents changed the narrative, not just of my life, not just of my 9 other siblings who are adopted, but even of the 3 biologically related children who 2 of them now are also adoptive parents, carrying on this legacy of love. It's really amazing. But this picture here wouldn't be possible, though, without 10 courageous birth moms. 10 courageous women who could have chosen abortion, but chose to be stronger. And so that's why this picture is even possible. I've never met my birth mom. I did search for her years ago, and unfortunately, I actually don't even know whether she's alive. The individual that they contacted never responded, so she could be alive. I'm certainly hoping she's alive, but I've always wanted to thank her. I know there are sometimes people have this idea that an adoptee is incomplete unless they have a relationship with their biological parent. No, that's not the case. But I really want to thank her. So over the years, I've done things. I've written a song as a tribute to her, try to figure out ways to pay tribute to such incredible courage. So I wanted to try to figure out how do I creatively, show the things that I've been able to become in my life by the grace of God, all because of her singular decision. It's amazing because we often don't think of the impact of a singular decision that literally will have reverberations for generations. And so I was trying to figure out how do I say this creatively to thank my birth mom for enabling me to be adopted and loved, and this is what I came up with.
You couldn't see what I would be. It wasn't part of your plan. Stronger than your circumstance, you gave my life a chance. Touching the future before it began. You're the reason I am here. I know deep down in my soul, my life has purpose. I know deep down in my soul, my life has purpose.
That never gets old for me at all. We serve the God of the impossible. He enables triumph to rise from tragedy all the time. Whew. He enabled my parents to raise 13 teenagers. Has anyone raised 13 teenagers? It could kill you, just saying. But my parents, they shattered the myth of the unwanted child. In fact, this is the DNA of the abortion industry, that life that is unintended equals unwanted equals unloved. And it's a lie. It's untrue. See, adoption unleashes purpose, and I think of the antithesis of that is the abortion industry that crushes purpose about 3,000 times a day. Planned Parenthood specifically, about 900 times a day. In fact, this is what Planned Parenthood has to say about adoption. They call themselves a pro-choice organization, right? This is what they have to say about adoption. They say the psychological responses to abortion are far less serious than those experienced by women bringing their unwanted pregnancy to term and relinquishing the child for adoption. Well, it doesn't sound really pro-choice to me. If you're demonizing one of the only two alternatives to abortion, are you really pro-choice? It probably explains why they abort 114 human lives for every one adoption referral. But see, that's who and what Planned Parenthood is. See, there's such a stark contrast between Care Pregnancy Center and Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood, in fact, this will explain some of that difference. This is a quote from Cecile Richards, who's the president of Planned Parenthood. And in New York Times, she says, "We aim to be the largest kick-butt political organization." That explains everything. See, they're not aiming to be the largest transformational organization. See, that's what Care Pregnancy Center is. It's a transformational organization. Now, I don't know how many of you have seen the Center for Medical Progress videos that exposed what Planned Parenthood was doing, selling aborted babies' body parts. Some of that excellent undercover journalism. But do you know what happened online with Planned Parenthood when those videos were exposed, other than them denying that any of it was true and then apologizing for the tone of their medical director when she was talking so cavalierly while eating salad and drinking wine about the way that she aborts the unborn? But when you went to Planned Parenthood's website, something interesting happened. It said, "Our site is not available due to an attack by extremists." If your website's been hacked by extremists, it doesn't say it's been attacked by extremists. Nor does it give you the option to donate to Planned Parenthood on the page. But see, mainstream media reported the attack, but then didn't report several weeks later when it was discovered that it was all just a PR stunt by their ad agency. But then again, fake news. Anyway, so this is Planned Parenthood, or as I like to call them, Planned propaganda. Planned Parenthood that used to teach in my wife's school. They would come in every Tuesday, and they would call it Sex Tuesday. So as the teacher, she had to sit and be quiet. She couldn't say a thing for the 45 minutes that a Planned Parenthood educator came in to spread their misinformation about sexuality. So here on their Teen Tumblr page, someone writes in and asks, is it wrong to be promiscuous? And so this is Planned Parenthood that gets $500 million taxpayer dollars a year. This is their response. They say, since the number of sexual partners you've had doesn't say anything about your character, your morals, or your personality, or about anything at all, really, there's nothing bad or unhealthy about having a big number of sexual partners. Really? I mean, I'm pretty sure that Care Pregnancy Center is not teaching that as part of their sexual integrity program. Apparently, Planned Parenthood has never heard of STDs, unintended pregnancies. See, this is what you do. As someone who studied marketing, this is marketing 101. This is how you create a revolving door client. You misinform them, and they just keep coming back to you and coming back to you. This is what you do when you're a political organization and not a transformational organization. But see, they're used to spreading their fake health, and then of course they have fake news to spread their fake health, because our mainstream media won't ever challenge anything that Planned Parenthood says. They don't fact check them. I don't know if you've noticed that. If you go to factcheck.org, they don't fact check them, which brings up another point. I mean, factcheck.org, the journalists who are writing the dishonest articles in the first place are the ones who fact check themselves? How does that work? Anyway, so Planned Parenthood could say anything they want and never get fact checked. We talk about defunding Planned Parenthood. Yes, cannot wait for that to happen. Can't wait for, I'm just going to say it. Can I just be a little political for just a moment? For certain people in the GOP to get a spine to defund Planned Parenthood. Okay, That's about as political as I'll get tonight. But what is such a shame is that Planned Parenthood gets away with saying anything. So they say if you defund us, women will have nowhere else to go for health care. Nowhere else to go. Well, wow, a lot of women must go to Planned Parenthood. Here's one of their lies, and we just kind of call them out. It's called the 1 in 5 lie.
Peek out! Abortion, distortion.
1 in 5 women in this country depend on Planned Parenthood for health care, more than 2.5 million people every single year.
Abortion, distortion. Defund abortion.
Yes, I wasn't raised on Common Core math, so I don't know how they got that 1 in 5. You see, they get away with this all the time. They say if you defund us, women have nowhere else to go. Just so you understand, 0.8% of the American population is served by Planned Parenthood. 0.8%. If they can be defunded, they can be replaced. In fact, there's a really great resource for those who say, well, where will women go to have health care? Good question. GetYourCare.org. It's a great website. You just put in your zip code and it shows all the taxpayer-funded, federally qualified health centers, community health centers that offer far more health care than Planned Parenthood. GetYourCare.org. There are 13,000 of those. There are about 650 Planned Parenthood abortion centers and abortion referral centers. Slightly more. So this is what they get away with. And of course they always say that, well, abortion's just 3% of our services, right? Just 3%. As if killing human beings 3% of the time is ever okay. I mean, that'd be like your local bank saying, yes, 3% of the people who come through our doors, yes, we do kill them, but we offer everybody else great investment options. What? And that's the equivalent of mainstream media saying, oh, it's only 3%, but look at all the other services. So we do. In fact, these fact sheets are available at our table. There are tons of free stuff at our table out there in that lobby area. We look at actually all of those services, and every single major medical service to women have been plummeting since Cecile Richards took over Planned Parenthood in 2006. Breast cancer exams, don't confuse that with mammograms because they haven't spent a dime on a mammogram machine, but breast cancer exams are down 64%, Pap tests down 72%, prenatal care barely even exists at Planned Parenthood, yet they call themselves a leading women's healthcare organization. Which is why if I had to kind of distill it down to just one meme to show the difference between Planned Parenthood and Care Pregnancy Center and pregnancy centers across the country, it would be this. Planned Parenthood lures women in with their lies. Pregnancy care centers, pregnancy resource centers love women with their lives. That's the difference. See, with the abortion industry tells women you're not strong enough. And the last time I checked, women were pretty strong. I mean, are there any strong women in this room? Come on. Some of you not so sure? You're confident right back there. Yes. Women are strong stuff. And guys, we are awesome. We are. But I think women are stronger. I'm just saying because we don't give birth. So, yes. Women are resilient. They overcome. We overcome. All of us overcome all the time. But the abortion industry constantly offers nope. And places like Care Pregnancy Center offer hope. And it makes a world of difference. That's why, at Care Pregnancy Center, you'll see the material support. They have the pregnancy and the parenting education. You won't find that at Planned Parenthood. You won't find baby boutiques inside of a Planned Parenthood. There's such a difference. And so what the abortion industry constantly says is that you're not strong enough. You can't face the unplanned. But yet we are stronger than our perceived or actual circumstances. And that's not on our own strength. I'm a firm believer in Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Whether you're a woman or whether you're a man. And I think of an industry that actually was birthed out of brokenness. Planned Parenthood was birthed out of the brokenness of Margaret Sanger, who, like my mom, grew up in poverty, had an alcoholic father, but yet she made choices to continue on in her brokenness. In fact, Margaret Sanger, in The Woman Rebel, it's her periodical that she would just publish some of the most vile stuff. She said the marriage bed is the most degenerative influence in the social order. This was her quote in 1914 from The Woman Rebel. No, it's not the most degenerative. It's the strength of the social order. It's the strength of every community, which is why when I think about abortion, I think of Roe v. Wade, and we're constantly told by faux feminists that, Roe v. Wade empowers women. Really, does it? Roe v. Wade empowered men to have sex and run. That's why we have such an epidemic of fatherlessness. 41% of children in this country are born into homes without fathers. See, we constantly hear that abortion is just a women's issue, but the last time I checked, men are 50% responsible for the biological equation. Am I wrong on that? Is it 50%? Science, I know, is trying to change all that, but we're still 50% of the biological equation. It's a human issue. And we talk about fatherlessness among white women. The fatherlessness is about 35%. Among Hispanics, about 53.5%. And in the black community, it's 72.3%. We've got a crisis of fatherlessness. Because men are being taught, you know what? Don't do what should come naturally, which is to protect. And as a father of four, this is one of the billboards that we've placed in cities across the country several years ago. I'm just a firm believer in those who know how to be a man, those who are fathers, to mentor young men so that they understand what it truly means to be a man, what it means to be a father. But see, when you look at Margaret Sanger and birth control and what led to abortion on demand, just so you have some sort of historical perspective, because we're always told birth control empowered women too. This is her definition of birth control. It's from her book, Women in the New Race. She says, birth control itself, often denounced as a violation of natural law, is nothing more or less than the facilitation of the process of weeding out the unfit, of preventing the birth of defectives or of those who will become defectives. Of course, for Margaret Sanger, that was a huge contingent of the United States population. That those who were incarcerated, women who had children outside of marriage. It was those who were physically disabled, poorer blacks in particular, who were disproportionately targeted. And then there was this category called feeble-minded, which, okay, we'll get political one more time, which basically would include most of Congress today. But anyway, that's a whole other story. Sorry for any politicians you're in here. I am not speaking about you. Just those outside of this room. Anyway, but see, that's the reality of brokenness that continued on without a separation. When you consider the possibilities, who Margaret Sanger could have become if someone spoke life into her life, if she decided to not believe the lie that some of us are less equal than others, if she broke away from all that. But she chose not to. So the result of that is what we see in the black community. What we see in the black community, where the fatherlessness rate is about 72.3%, and the abortion rate is 5 times higher. In fact, in New York City, the home of Planned Parenthood, more black babies are aborted than born alive. For every 1,000 born alive, 1,101 are aborted. And Planned Parenthood calls it reproductive justice. It's a pretty twisted sense of justice. So we placed this billboard in the very conservative San Francisco Bay Area. Are you familiar with that area? We did 60 billboards in that area, and we were blasted, of course. We were denounced by the ACLU, whatever. Denounced by Planned Parenthood, which is not surprising. We were denounced by the NAACP, who called this billboard in the campaign calling for men to step up and be men and to be fathers. We were told that this billboard campaign was horribly racist and gave the false impression that Planned Parenthood kills black babies. They kill black babies, they kill white babies, and every hue in between. 328,348 according to their last annual report. That's a lot of human lives destroyed. And so I couldn't understand, how's the NAACP denouncing us? What? How is it? So I started doing research, and I'm a factivist. See, I'm a firm believer that emotions don't set us free, the truth does. So I write a lot of articles, whether you can find them on our Radiance.life, Town Hall, Christian Post, and others, Life News and LifeSite News. And so I decided to do some research, and I find that NAACP is radically pro-abortion, passing a resolution supporting abortion, which was the result of the passage of the partial birth abortion ban, that being signed into the law. So that was their foray into abortion advocacy back in 2004. And when I wrote the article, they had $1,000 a plate, $1,000 a Margaret Sanger Circle plate dinner in Planned Parenthood in Georgia, but yet NAACP said, we've not taken a position on abortion. If you're doing a fundraiser that's $1,000 a plate, you've taken a position on abortion. So I wrote an article about the NAACP, which, by the way, I grew up revering and loving. I wrote an article about them. I called it the National Association for the Abortion of Colored People. Yeah, they didn't like it. So they sued me, they sued the Radiance Foundation. Just craziness. I mean, parody. It's a free speech issue. I mean, I never would have thought a child growing up reading all about the NAACP and all the landmark cases, Brown v. Board of Education, and so many more, that a brown guy would be sued by a civil rights organization for exercising one of my most basic civil rights, free speech. But yes, they did. And it just confused me. How are they partnering? They're actively partnering with Planned Parenthood. In fact, Planned Parenthood was an annual corporate sponsor of their annual convention that they would have, their multi-million-dollar convention. So here's a tweet from Planned Parenthood's CEO. And she says, everyone must own the responsibility we have as a nation to stand against the violence being done to black people in America. There are no words adequate to express the outrage and grief. Stop killing black people. Are you kidding me? According to the Washington Post, 258 black individuals were killed by police. I'm not getting into the legitimacy of any of that. 494 white people were killed by police that same year. 79% of all of them were armed with a deadly weapon. Any loss of life is tragic. But let's just put things into context. Planned Parenthood kills 266 unarmed black lives every single day. So 2 years in federal court fighting the NAACP, and I just want to say, victory, people, victory. Thanks to Alliance Defending Freedom. But see, the reason why I do what I do, I'm inspired, one of my childhood heroes is Frederick Douglass, who was a former slave, an abolitionist, a women's rights activist, probably the best orator of his day, maybe even one of the best in American history. It's amazing. He had to start his own newspaper because, surprise, mainstream media wouldn't tell the truth about slavery at the time. And so he started his own newspaper called the North Star, and one of the quotes explaining why, he said, "I see before me a life of toils and trials. But justice must be done. The truth must be told. I will not be silent." We don't have the luxury of being silent. It's not just the slaughter of the innocents. It's also the devastation to the moms and the dads who are being sold a lie. By the way, Frederick Douglass was also conceived in rape. Imagine life without him. This is how I view Care Pregnancy Center and pregnancy centers across the country. They're the Underground Railroad of today. They're the place of rescue, the place of hope, where someone comes and they understand that they're appreciated for being created by God, that they're not lesser than. A mom is not lesser than. A mom who finds herself pregnant outside of marriage is not lesser than. And the child that she carries certainly isn't lesser than. So to me, it's like the Underground Railroad and the love and the compassion that is shown every day at these centers that radically change the path of so many lives. That's what I love. This is why I like talking about the beauty of possibility. The beauty of possibility, or the possibility quotient. Oh my goodness. How many of you have ever had your intelligence quotient measured? You laugh. Was it a good day? And she laughs again. So perhaps we've all had our IQ measured at some point. Some of us may not have liked the result, but no one can ever possibly measure this. We aren't even good at assessing what we're capable of. I mean, just by a show of hands, how many of you have ever done more than you thought you could do? You just blew your own expectations. About a fifth of you. That's really depressing. Wow. So immediately following this, we're going to have a self-esteem seminar for all of you who just need that boost. Okay. But see, the abortion industry will say that no one should come into this world unplanned. No one should come in, grow up in poverty. No one should have to have a single mom. No one should have to be a single mom or a single dad. No one should face adversity. Really? I think adversity makes us better human beings. So I'll give you some examples of people who could have been eliminated if their moms held on to that sort of mentality. This little guy grew up in poverty, had a single mom who worked 3 jobs because she was determined that her boys were going to make it. He hated to read, but she said, "Oh, you're going to read. You are going to read." He became someone somewhat famous. You may have heard of him, Dr. Ben Carson. Only the world's most renowned pediatric neurosurgeon. No big deal, right? This next little girl probably sung around the house all the time. Her parents could not have imagined that their adopted little girl would end up singing in front of millions. You know her voice, you probably love her, country music star, Faith Hill. Adopted and loved. This girl was actually conceived in rape and adopted by a family member. Became a TV star, movie star. Those of you who know the old Batman, the one where they're in the underoos, you probably know her as Catwoman, but those during Christmas time know this song because your Christmas wouldn't be the same. I need the audio. Can we have the audio channel up the whole time? And a little louder, that's good. Just a little louder. If you know the song, just go ahead and sing.
Santa baby, just slip a sable under.
Apparently you know 2 words, and that's okay. Eartha Kitt. Okay, so now this last little guy was also adopted, and I loved in his biography where he said he wanted to see his birth mom and just say, "Thank you that I didn't end up as an abortion." When he passed away, I wrote about him. Any of you who have an iPhone, an iPad, a MacBook Pro, your lives have been impacted by him. Steve Jobs changed the world. Adoption changed his. See, sometimes adoption literally does change the world. And this is the coolest part. I'm all about Photoshop because I Photoshop all the time. But I did not Photoshop the picture on the left, where little Stevie is holding his hand up just so, I'm just saying, God was like, you hold on your hand. Yes, your hand's gonna hold something really important in it soon. Consider the possibilities, people. But see, none of these people, and all their accomplishments are great, but none of these people have worth because of those accomplishments. We all have worth simply because we exist. So there are so many who face unplanned pregnancy, they feel like it's the end of their lives. And that's why I love that Care Pregnancy Center cherishes her, no matter what her circumstances are. But see, I understand this in a way because my wife went through this. My wife was a single mom for 2 years. She taught in inner city Philly trying to help her kids escape some of the choices of their parents, causing generational poverty, and then finds herself in that same situation, feeling ashamed. So her colleagues would just say, just abort it, just abort it. It's amazing how callous people can be, especially when something's in the abstract. It's a little easier to be callous in the abstract. But see, that it has a name.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABC. Now time also me.
Good job. Give me 5.
See, this is what happens when you support Care Pregnancy Center. This is part of those possibilities. And my little girl, I'm a little biased, I think she's just one of the most beautiful girls. Her name is Haley Radiance, the reason for the name of our organization. She just turned 13 a week and a half ago. Pray for me, thank you. She is amazing though. She radiates inside and out. Her name, Radiance, actually, Bethany gave her that name from Psalm 34:5. She never wanted her to feel ashamed because of how she came to be, and that she didn't, well, at the time she thought she didn't have her biological father. In fact, her biological father wanted her aborted. Not that Bethany's ever told her that, but Psalm 34:5 says, "They looked upon him, and their faces were radiant. They were never covered with shame." And then along came this really great guy into their lives when she was 1. I'm joking, I'm an all right guy, but God just orchestrated just beauty. It's what he does, triumph from tragedy all the time. Came into her life when Haley was 1, became her dad, officially was able to adopt her when she was 5. In fact, the same day at a Georgia courthouse, I adopted my oldest daughter, and then Bethany and I adopted our youngest son. His name is Justice, and that was another day of ugly crying. I didn't even care. I didn't care who saw me. I was a hot mess. Because of this, some of the best things in life are unplanned. And I think of my 4 children, the courage of my birth mom that enabled me to live, giving me the gift of adoption, having 2 parents who loved the mess out of me, and God who gave me purpose. But all that led to this, my favorite people on the planet. This is my family, my youngest son, Justice, my Haley Radiance, the love of my life, Bethany, and my 2 kids who are competing for middle child status, Makai and Aaliyah. I have 4 children, 3 of whom were unplanned, 4 of whom are homeschooled, by the way. Any homeschoolers in here? Yes, and you're still surviving? Because you're dancing back there in the back, so they're happy homeschooling parents. So that happens, happy and homeschooling together? Okay, just checking. No, actually it's awesome. It's a huge blessing. But out of my 4 children, 3 of them are unplanned, and my little Aaliyah, all the way to the right, when I was making that video that you saw earlier of all the things I've been able to become in my life, she comes in, she will never sing in front of other people. She will sing all day long, but never in front of other people. So she comes in, she said, "Dad, I like that song. Can I sing something to it?" And I love just being there with my kids and just, yes, Aaliyah, grab it. Grab the microphone and go ahead and sing. Sing whatever comes to mind. So all I did was hit record. This little girl knows how to harmonize, 8 years old, just turned 8, and she just sang. And while she's singing, all I could think of was, this moment is made possible because of the one singular decision that enabled me to be a father and a husband. This is my Aaliyah. When you support Care Pregnancy Center, you make possibilities happen. Thank you. God bless you all.